How much does it cost to rent a physical office in Shanghai? How much does it cost to rent an apartment in Shanghai? Or how much will I be paying for my kids' education in Shanghai? So these are some of the frequently questions we receive on a daily basis from our viewers on YouTube. So in today's video, I'd like to talk about them, and hopefully the video is going to be useful for you when you're considering to move to Shanghai with your family. If you're new in this channel, once again, my name is Jasur. I'm a corporate consultant based in Shanghai. We have companies in Shanghai, US, and Uzbekistan. You can check our services on our website and feel free to contact us. We'll be glad to hear from you. Now, let's get back to the topic. How much does it cost to live in Shanghai with your family? Let's start with the most expensive one. People might think that apartment, renting a place to live is going to be the most expensive one, but actually that's not the case. Most expensive, or the major cost that you're looking at, is the education. Especially when you're moving with your family, you have kids, then that's the cost you need to consider extremely seriously in Shanghai. Why? Because compared to many countries, even to European countries, or sometimes, I don't know, Canada or US, education cost in Shanghai can be much more expensive. Now, when we talk about the public schools, the government school, obviously that's cheap compared to other countries, maybe. So the cost is between 2,000 yuan a year to all the way up to 10, 15,000 yuan a year. And I'm going to convert yuan into dollars so you can have some idea how much it's going to be in USD. Now, but when we're talking about private schools in Shanghai, there are a bunch of them actually. There's a Canadian, German, US, many US schools actually, and British school. Also, I know Japanese, Singaporean, and there's French school as well. So all these private schools, they cost extremely expensive. The minimum cost, as far as I know, is around $10,000 to $11,000 a year. That's purely for education only, because there are added costs as well. For example, for the school bus, for meals for your kid every day. But approximately total, even the cheapest one, is going to be around $15,000 a year. So that's the minimum cost that you're looking at. Of course, you can deduct some of the costs. For example, you can move closer to the school, and so that you can deduct the school bus price. Or, I don't know, some people maybe negotiate with the school in terms of food as well, if you want to cut that off as well. That might be an option. But if you want to get the full package for your kid, then you're looking at minimum $15,000 1 year. And 1 year consists of 2 terms, but still most schools will ask you to pay the whole tuition fee upfront for the entire year. There are schools that you can negotiate to on term-based payment. For example, you can pay like every 6 months, every 8 months, or something like that, depending on the school curriculum. And but definitely they will ask for a larger portion of the payment upfront. This is based on our personal experience. Also, private schools require deposit as well. And as far as I know, the deposit is approximately $5,000 to $6,000. So you give that deposit when you enroll your kid into a school, and then when you decide to leave the school, you will get that deposit back. But you need to consider that aspect as well when you're making your budgeting. Now, let's talk about the kindergarten. Kindergarten is exactly like the schools. Unfortunately, the cost of education in Shanghai is extremely expensive. So when we talk about the public kindergarten, the cost, again, might be around 2,000 yuan a year, very cheap ones. But there are public kindergartens which cost you around 10,000, 15,000 yuan a year. But when you want to send your kid to a private kindergarten, again, there are a bunch of them. There are like Chinese-owned private kindergartens, and there are international kindergartens owned by US, UK, Canada, German, Japanese, French, etc., etc. So the private ones, the minimum one is going to cost you approximately 12,000 yuan per month. And I'm talking about the Chinese-owned kindergartens here, the private. So 12,000 yuan a month. And that includes typically the tuition, obviously, and also education materials and food. So, and if you want to add the school bus, obviously you need to pay extra on top. School bus usually in private kindergartens cost around 6,000 to 8,000 yuan a year. That's again Chinese-owned private kindergartens. But when we're talking about again international kindergartens or foreign-owned kindergartens, the cost is almost like the school cost. You're looking at approximately $10,000, $15,000 a year. But of course, if you talk about monthly basis or term-based, you're looking at approximately 20,000 yuan a month or closer to that. And of course, depending on the area you live, you can maybe, deduct the cost of the school bus or move closer to the kindergarten. Some parents actually decide to send their kids to one international school that has both, elementary school or middle school and all of that, like high school and the kindergarten. So you can find such schools. Actually, there are plenty of them. And depending on what type of curriculum you choose and the languages your kids speak, then you can decide. And actually, that language aspect is another topic I want to discuss, although this video is about living expenses. But still, when we talk about education, the language aspect is also important. For example, local elementary school is not an option for you if your kid doesn't speak Chinese, obviously. So when you move to China, you need to consider sending your kid to a language course at least 1 year, so that they can learn the language before you can send your kid to an elementary school. Obviously, when you approach the education bureau in the district where you're living in Shanghai, they will ask this question. Foreigners can send their kids to public school. We did before we switched to international school. So they ask your kid's ability to speak the local language. If they cannot speak, then obviously they will ask you to teach them the Chinese. So after that, they will usually talk to the kid as well. After your kid learns Chinese, they will invite both the parents and the kid, and they will ask a few questions to your kid in Chinese to make sure that the kid understands Chinese and is able to respond. So that's the situation. And the language schools usually cost you approximately 3,000 to 4,000 yuan a month minimum. That's the starting cost. At least this was the case a few years back when we helped one of our friends actually to find such a school. Our own kids, both of them, they speak Chinese because they grew up here. So that's why we didn't experience like firsthand sending the kids to language school, but we helped our friends. So the minimum cost is 2,000-3,000 yuan a month. But of course, depending on the area that you're living, obviously downtown is going to be very expensive in Shanghai. I actually compared to most of the big cities in the world like London, New York, etc. So you need to you can come from that perspective, because obviously downtown is full of rich people. It's no secret. So the costs for everything is kind of very high. And now, of course, so if you don't want the kids to learn Chinese, there's always an option for international schools. You can choose any international school based on the language you want to send your kids to, like English, French, Japanese, even Korean. I believe you can find. But for sure, we know that Japanese schools exist, English schools exist. There are many of them, British, American, Canadian, and also there is this German school. I personally know it exists. The costs are pretty much, like I mentioned above. And American British tend to be the most expensive ones. For example, there's a British-owned school. They charge approximately $50,000 a year. And there are parents who send their kids to such schools. And very surprising thing is actually even the cost of education in Shanghai is extremely high. It's not easy to enroll your kids, both for public school and international school. That's the situation. Usually for public school, there's a opening, like enrollment season, and then people just rush to enroll their kids, and there's a waiting list as well. Same goes true for international schools as well. It's really hard to find place for your kid to enroll because simply there's a very high demand. Now, that's about education, okay? And next cost, obviously, you're looking at is apartment. Just like education, Shanghai has, first of all, 19 districts. So depending on where you want to live, the cost of apartment varies. So in downtown, for example, for 2-bedroom apartment, this kind of apartment that I'm recording the video, it's 120 square meters. We have 2-bedroom here with separate kitchen, etc. So we are in downtown. We pay 13,000 yuan, and that is the old cost actually. We started renting this apartment maybe, almost like 3 years ago now. So that's 13,000 yuan a month. And nowadays, as I know, it's extremely hard to find anything similar, for this price. Current prices usually for this kind of apartment is around 15,000 yuan a month. And yeah, so this is in Changning. Changning is considered one of the downtown districts where a lot of foreigners live. But if you want to go a little bit further from downtown, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, then same kind of apartment is going to cost you approximately, let's say, 10,000 yuan a month. You go further, the cost drops further as well. So for example, let's take the district where our company is located, Songjiang district. Songjiang is the manufacturing place. Actually, there's a lot of factories there. It's kind of business, manufacturing/business district. So if you want to rent an apartment in Songjiang, the same type of apartment is going to cost you approximately 5,000-6,000 yuan a month. And that's it. When you rent an apartment, actually, you need to calculate the budget accordingly. So the landlords require you to pay 1 month's deposit of the rent, and the same amount, and of course 3 months advance payment. So you pay every 3 months. So that's the usual system in China. And also, it's extremely hard to find an agreement less than 6 months. Landlords usually go for 1 year minimum, 6 months minimum, and 1 year is the typical length of a contract. And obviously, if you use the service of the agent, they charge around 1,000 to, let's say, 5,000 yuan. You can negotiate with an agent. In our case, for example, we negotiated with an agent. They initially told us that 1 month's rent payment goes to the service of an agent. We say this is ridiculous because I've been living in China for almost 13 years and we are not new. So we negotiated the fee down to, if I'm not mistaken, it was like 3,000 yuan. We just gave an agent 3,000 yuan and they just agreed. And that was the situation. So you can always negotiate with landlords, with agents, and whenever they say some price, don't just take it without negotiation, because in China everything is actually negotiable. I'm talking about the prices. So that's apartments, guys. Now there are villas, of course. There are foreigners who can afford renting villas or houses. Those are also available in Songjiang area. Again, Songjiang is around 30 kilometers from downtown. But if you have a car, you can drive 1 hour every day back and forth, or you can take a metro. Metro also takes 1 hour to Songjiang. So there are villas and houses you can rent in Songjiang. I think the starting cost you're looking at is approximately 25,000 yuan a month in Songjiang. And in downtown, villas are going to cost you approximately 50,000 yuan a month and up. I've seen some advertisements. There's a nice villa, 2-floor villa, probably 4 bedrooms or 5 bedrooms, and the starting cost they're asking for is around 50,000 yuan a month. So yeah, depends what kind of business you do, your budget. You can find a lot of options for apartment and villas. Now, next cost I want to talk about is bills. Let's start with the utility bills, like natural gas. Most of the apartments in Shanghai use natural gas for cooking and everything, and also electricity and water. For all of that, just to give you a bulk price, I pay in downtown in Changning approximately 2,000 yuan a month. So natural gas, water, and electricity. But of course, it depends on your consumption. It can be slightly less than that or slightly more than that. So the average price you're looking at is 2,000 yuan a month in downtown. But when we talk about a little bit further from downtown, let's again take Songjiang, the cost is going to be approximately 1,000, 1,500 a month. So utility bills, yes, they are different for each district actually in Shanghai. And I don't know about the specific prices. I never bothered calculating specific prices for water, specifically for natural gas or electricity. But just as a bulk price to give you an idea, again in here it's 2,000 yuan a month. For internet, we pay. Actually, internet is also very expensive here. So we opted for 5G Wi-Fi because you have an option, and it's normal. Internet Wi-Fi is not 5G, but there is a 5G Wi-Fi that we use. I pay 3,200 every year. 3,200 every year, and it's extremely fast actually. And so yeah, that's. And by the way, when we signed up for 5G Wi-Fi, we could not change it back to normal one. Probably the internet provider, maybe they wanted to keep the same contract and just told us that we cannot do it. But that's the thing. We signed up for an annual contract, and even the contract expired, we wanted to change back because I felt like, the 3,200 yuan a year is slightly expensive. So I wanted to go back to actually change to a normal internet. But they said it's not possible. Either you continue or you can, disconnect. So we just continued, paying, extending that agreement. But the normal internet, as I know, it's half of what you pay for 5G Wi-Fi. It's approximately 1,500 or 1,000, even for 1,000 you can find per year. But usually the speed is very good in Shanghai. Yes, I mean, I've never experienced a problem with internet speed in Shanghai. Even in Songjiang, in our office, the speed of the internet is very, very fast. And obviously, the download data is unlimited. There's no limitation. And yeah, that's about it. And the groceries, we spend approximately 3,000 yuan every month for groceries. There's a bunch of options again. We usually do our groceries online. There's a supermarket nearby, but most of the supermarkets, I would say 99% of the supermarkets for groceries, they are connected to this online application. Basically, there are two main applications for groceries, Meituan and Ele.me. So I personally prefer Meituan. I don't know, I just started using it, so I still use that. I never use Ele.me. But yeah, we do our groceries on Meituan, and every month, as a bulk price, I spent around 3,000. And that's more than enough, actually. You can buy meat, all sorts of vegetables, fruits, whatever you basically wish. And yeah, you can make it cheaper as well, of course, depending on what you need. But later on, maybe in the next videos, I just go to one of the local supermarkets and I will actually show you the price of products. But just to give you a bulk idea, we are a family of four, actually. Our two kids and me, myself and my wife. For four people, we spend 3,000 yuan every month for groceries. There are foreign supermarkets as well. There's French one, like Carrefour, and there's a German supermarket chain, which is Metro. And yeah, you can find a lot of imported products as well. Obviously, there's a Walmart, Sam's Club. You can sign up, and that's kind of membership supermarket. And usually in foreign supermarkets for imported products, the price is extremely high compared to the original place. For example, if you compare it to the US prices, maybe they are slightly higher here because they are imported. That's why we usually, most of the time do our groceries using this Meituan and through local supermarkets. But of course, from time to time, I buy products. When I really need the imported products, I go for Metro. Metro is the German supermarket chain. Except for this, what are the other costs? Maybe for clothing, that's extremely cheap in China. Maybe we spent, I mean, not we, but I personally spent around 1,000 yuan a month for clothing. And also for eating out, again, around 1,000 yuan a month for eating out. Yeah, what else? Like maybe for entertainment, to take the kids to some parks and for some I don't know, amusement parks. From time to time, we spend approximately, let's say, 500 to 1,000 yuan a month, and that's all. Actually, that's not all. I almost forgot that we also employ part-time maid, which is called ai in Chinese. So for her, we pay approximately 4,500 every month, depending on the hours she works, because she's part-time. Basically, she picks up the kids from school and does all the cleaning at home. And yeah, she works only part-time, only weekdays. But if you employ full-time maid, usually they are, women from, outside of Shanghai most of the time. So they help you around the house. They clean, they look after your kids, they pick up the kids, like I said, from school. And sometimes if you employ them, like they take the kids to the school bus and etc. So if you employ, obviously you have to, double the cost that I mentioned, which is approximately between 8,000 yuan to, let's say, 9,000 yuan. And that is the market price currently in Shanghai. So if you employ a maid, most of the foreign families here, they don't obviously have their parents or relatives. Someone, might help them to take care of the kids, obviously. So the only option is to employ local maids, basically, to help you around with the kids, especially if yourself and your spouse, you work full time. There's literally no time to go and take the kids from school or take the kids to the school bus. It's literally impossible to manage that. But like I said, obviously, this is only in the case that both of you, like yourself and your spouse, you work full time and you don't have time to take care of your kids and of course the cleaning and cooking. Our IE, for example, like I said, she takes care of the kids after school and does the cleaning, laundry, and she cooks for us. So, of course, depending on your needs, you can customize that and talk to your maid, and they will basically help you. And of course, if one of the parents stay at home to do all that kind of tasks, then you don't have to hire any maid. And yeah, by the way, while editing this video, I noticed that I also forgot to summarize all the costs, but please, take a pen and paper and write down all the costs that I mentioned. And yeah, after all, not everything applies to all families. So you need to take what applies to you, okay? Because a bunch of these expenses you can deduct, you can get rid of. And you don't have to like apply all of that. This is just the general information for educational purposes. And yeah, just to give you an idea what kind of expenses you might face. But like I said, this only applies to our situation, okay? Depending on your like specific circumstances, on your family, your needs, where you stay, which district you will be living in, and the schools you send your kids to, your costs might vary. Actually, dramatically might be different. So it's kind of up to you. But generally, these are the things that you might face in 2023 and possibly 2024, unless we have some different changes here in terms of pricing. So I hope this video is going to be helpful, guys, when you are considering to move to Shanghai. And once again, please don't take this as extreme, because some people might find it like very, very expensive to live in Shanghai, but in fact it's not the case. Just because this is our preference to live in downtown, we have our reasons. The costs are slightly high here, because most of the foreigners I know, they tend to live outside downtown. Because in Shanghai, like I said, 19 districts, you can choose any district you like, and pretty much you can have all these products and access to schools and kindergartens in any district. But of course, downtown infrastructure is slightly different. In downtown, you have a lot of like restaurants, you have a lot of parks. Maybe a most important reason for us is it's closer to the schools our kids go to, and also it's closer to my wife's office. I don't mind going to Songjiang for work. It's okay for me because I run a company, my time is flexible, but my wife needs to be closer to her office. So her office is in downtown. We don't have any other options. That's the reason why we are actually here. That is the reason our costs are a little bit higher. But if you live in Songjiang or Pudong or some other Minhang, for example, the costs are maybe a lot cheaper, and especially for apartment and groceries. But schools, public schools, public kindergarten, and private school, private kindergarten, of course, they are the same across Shanghai. So yeah, okay, guys. So if any questions, feel free to leave in the comment section below, or you can send an email regarding living in Shanghai, working in China in general, or setting up a company. You can check out our services once again, and I'll be glad to hear from you. So see you next time. Bye.